Hey everyone, welcome back to Practical AutoCAD and Inventor. Today we're diving into one of the most important and often overlooked commands in AutoCAD, the Options command. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned pro, knowing how to customize your AutoCAD settings can boost your efficiency, streamline your workflow, and enhance your overall experience. In this video, I'll walk you through the Options command, showing you how to tweak settings for display, drafting, file locations, and more. So if you want to take full control over your AutoCAD environment, stick around. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update. Let's get started. There are several ways to get to the Options command in AutoCAD. You can go to the menu browser and choose Options down here at the bottom. You can right-click on the command line and choose Options, or you can type in the word Options. When you do, it will launch the Options dialog box. And I'm going to start over here on the Files tab because this one is actually quite important and probably the most often overlooked area. AutoCAD is a complex program that doesn't have every file loaded at any point in time. And when you start a new function, like let's say you start off in AutoCAD two-dimensional annotation and design, and then you want to go to 3D AutoCAD, you know how it takes a moment and it hesitates while it loads other files and programs and stuff, and then it kicks back off again. Well, that's because, again, AutoCAD doesn't load everything that it needs at any one time. It just loads it as it needs it. And the places that AutoCAD looks for all of those files is listed right here on this Options dialog box. So if we take, for example, this support file search path right here at the top and look at it, you'll see that it has a list of places where it starts looking for files when you tell it to do things. And what it does is it looks in this top file first, then it looks in the second file and the third file and fourth file and so on. Once it finds the file that it's looking for, it stops looking. So if there's an alternate version of the file with the same name a little bit lower in the path, it'll never find it. Now you can see here in mine that I have added additional locations that you probably don't have because I have line types that I've created and CUIs that I've created and dynamic block libraries here. And so it looks and looks and looks, and finally it gets to one of these where it finds what I'm telling it to look for and it stops looking. If I want to change the locations for these, I can simply say, hey, I want to move this one up or move it down, or perhaps I want to browse to a different location. I can do that there. Some other things that are quite helpful is your printer support file path. If I expand this one, for example, you'll see down here there's this one that says plot style table search path. If you have created alternative plot style tables, you can simply come in here, expand this, and then add another place where you might have your plot style tables stored that's not necessarily on the hard drive in the same location as AutoCAD's. And when you go to the plot menu, it will automatically find those plot style tables that you've created and give you that choice to choose those as well. One other thing that is quite helpful is this automatic save file location. I have my automatic save file location right now as the local temp. It's the default one, but if I was working in a network situation, I wouldn't necessarily want it to save on that local drive, so I might save it to a network location so that I could always get those automatic saves no matter where I was. So that's just a few things, but it's worth the time to come through this list and look and see, because there's other things that are definitely helpful. The second tab here is the Display tab, and on this tab you can generally control everything about the display. So for example, I can change the color theme from dark to light. That's just the theme on the ribbon and the toolbars and stuff that pops up. You can come in here and you can turn on and off scroll bars and large buttons and those kinds of things. You can change how long it takes for tooltips to show up. So for example, if I hover over something, you'll see that it takes 1 second for that tooltip to show up. But if I change that number, it'll take a little bit longer. And then for tooltips that have that extended tooltip, like if I come up here to the line command and I wait for a second, it gives me a tooltip. But if I linger there for 2 seconds, it gives me that extended tooltip. You can you can change that. If you already know everything that there is to know about AutoCAD and want to speed up your computer just a little bit, you can simply turn that off and it'll ignore it completely. Other things that you can do is you can change the color. And one of my favorite colors to change is in sheet or layout space. I like to change that uniform background to something dark, sometimes black, sometimes a dark gray. But that way, when you go to paper space, you don't have that really dark or that really bright light shining in your face. It makes it easier to see some of those colors like yellow, green, cyan, that kind of stuff with this black background. So of course these are all these are all options that you can choose to make or not make depending on what you want to do. You can also change the font down here on your command line. There's not very many to choose from. But you can choose from whichever ones, and you can make it bigger or smaller as necessary. Some other things, if you want to go in and turn them on or off, you can say I do or don't want to see layout and model tabs. That's these down here at the bottom. Of course, we like to have them on, but if you want to mess with somebody, you can come in here and you can turn them off, and then a new user probably won't know how to get from model space to layout space. So you can, kind of come to the rescue and help them out or whatever. Everything over here on this side, pretty much where it says display resolution, has to do with three-dimensional stuff, and we're not going to be talking about that. You can change the crosshair size and XREFs, how much they're going to fade out, and those types of things. If you want more information on the XREF display and fading those out, you'll have to look for my XREF video that I've created. On the Open and Save tab, you can tell it as a default how you want to save it. So you might want to create a profile, for example, if you have a client who really needs you to save it down to an older version of AutoCAD. And it will automatically, if I choose, for example, AutoCAD 2013, it'll automatically save it to a 2013 version without me having to tell it to save it down each time. Now remember, if you save it down, you're going to lose some functionality. Remember AutoCAD 2013, way back then, they didn't have some of the nice stuff that they have with the array command and some of those other properties. So just be aware that you'll lose some of that functionality if you save it down, but if somebody else needs to open it, that's the way they can do that. Of course, here's your automatic save area, and I do recommend that you have that turned on. That way it's automatically saving your work every 10 minutes. You can change that number if you want, but again, I think 10 minutes is an appropriate number. Coming to plot and publish, you can specify which plotter that you want it to go to. And since most of my work I plot to PDF, I don't plot to a regular plotter, I have that selected here as DWG to PDF. It's a really good one. It's solid. It comes with AutoCAD. It doesn't have to have any required updates from Adobe or anything. So that's the one that I recommend if that's how you're publishing. You can also come in on these tabs down here, change your plot stamp settings if you have plot stamp information, and you can save that plot stamp file and then you can import it from there as well. And then here's the other place that you can go in and change plot style table settings. So again, if you want that CTB file that's custom to your company, you can create that there and you can save it to wherever it needs to be. I think on the System tab here, they've got this one lined up pretty good. There are a few changes that if you're kind of a geek, you could go in and change about, the info center and security and kind of stuff, but most people just leave this tab alone. Now on the User Preferences tab, there's a selection that I recommend everybody make, and that's under right-click customization. I recommend that you turn on the right-click, the time-sensitive right-click. Now I'm going to turn it off and then choose Apply and Close and OK, just to show you what it is that means to work. If I come in here, for example, and I say I want the line command, when I start drawing my mouse, of course you guys know you can specify coordinates or you can use direct distance input or whatever, but when you're done, you can right-click your mouse and it gives you this context-sensitive menu where I have the option of pressing Enter. So it's a click and another click. So that's cool, but it's kind of a drag. If I want to restart the command, I right-click my mouse and then I have to click again to repeat the line, and then I can again repeat the line command and then right-click and Enter. But if you go back to the Options command And on the User Preferences tab, you turn on the time-sensitive right-click. You'll see that it has a longer time duration of 2500 or 250 milliseconds, which is a quarter of a second, not very long. Choose Apply and Close. Now if I come in here and I start drawing my mouse, when I right-click, it automatically does the enter, and if I right-click again, it automatically does an enter again. So I don't have to choose that context menu. But if I want that context menu, all I have to do is click and hold, and it still comes up. So it's a great way to kind of have the best of both worlds. It's a game changer, and it'll really speed up your drafting. You think, how does one click change your drafting speed? Well, it does, because it's one click hundreds or thousands of times a day, which makes a big difference. Going back to the options menu here, we're still on that User Preferences tab. Everything in here is pretty good. One thing is when you put fields in, they have that gray background. Remember, that gray background doesn't display, but if you wanted to turn it off, you could simply turn it off right there. I don't recommend it because it's a good reminder that, hey, this is intelligent text. It's a field. It's not just regular text. You can come in and change your block editor. You can change your line weight settings. You can add or remove or change your detail or your default scale list here. On the drafting tab, I think they have everything lined up pretty good, but you can come in and you can change a few colors and sizes, but I pretty much leave this one alone. Again, I don't do much 3D drawing in AutoCAD, but the one change that I do make on the 3D modeling tab is I turn off the 2D or the view cube in the 2D wireframe. So here I am in 2D wireframe mode, but notice I do not have the view cube up because I don't need it. In two-dimensional stuff, it's just taking up space. It's just kind of a distraction. So I always turn off that 2D wireframe mode. And then finally on selection size, again, they have this set up pretty good. If you want, you can make your pick box a little bit bigger or smaller. You can, come through and kind of read these and take a look at them. Again, if you're one of those guys who's a little mischievous, come in here and uncheck the noun-verb selection. And what that forces the people to do is it forces them to select the command before they select the objects in a modify command. So you want to mess with people, you can slow them down a little bit, but if you turn that on, it allows you to select the object and then select the modify command, or select the modify command and then select the object. Of course, there's always ways to mess with people, just don't get yourself in trouble. Now, after you've gone through and you've changed the file location and your display settings and those kinds of things, it's nice to write all of this information out to a file so that it doesn't, so that you don't have to go through and make all those changes again. And you'll do that on the Profiles tab over here. So I've gone through and I've made several different changes. So what I can do now is I can export all of those changes to a file, and the file extension is ARG. So I'm just going to put this on my desktop to have a place to put it, and I'll call it, Rigby. That's who I am. AutoCAD profile. And you can call it anything you want. Save. And it wrote that file out to the desktop so that, it's there. Now, if I say change computers, maybe I should have saved that to a network drive, but I change computers and I come in and all my settings are wrong. The colors are wrong. My scale lists aren't there, all that kind of stuff. If I want to make all those changes again, I don't have to recreate it all. I simply come over here to import. I browse to wherever that location is. There it is, the AutoCAD file, that ARG file. Open it, apply and close. So you'll see that it brings it in. The last step then is to come over here and choose set current, and then it makes that one current, and you have all of those settings. So it's an easy way to take all of those changes and make it in one place. And just those little changes are going to make big changes in your speed and your comfort while you're using AutoCAD. I hope this helps. If you have any questions about AutoCAD, the options command, or anything else, click down below, leave me a message, and I'll make future videos answering your questions. Thanks for watching.